Hello, my name is Jaden Vinhouse, and this is my biggest impact paper presentation. I'm coming at you a little bit differently than I would have liked. I was hoping to be able to use my classroom, but unfortunately, due to COVID-19, I was not able to go back into the school at this time. So, bear with me. I hope this works as well. Okay. So, like I said, my name is Jaden Winhouse, biggest impact paper presentation. I did mine over George Steinbrenner III. Okay, a little bit about George Steinbrenner. He was born July 4th, 1930. His father was the owner of Great Lakes Shipping Company, which he later became owner, and what helped him uh, get his money so that he could afford to own made professional teams, most notably the New York Yankees. He graduated from Williams College in 1952 with a bachelor's degree. At Williams College, he participated in different extracurricular activities. He was a part of a fraternity, and he was also very well involved with sports that included playing football his senior year and running hurdles. A little bit more continued. He joined the Air Force right after college in 1952. He was in the Air Force for 3 years. Right after he got out of the Air Force, he started a career in coaching, particularly in coaching football. This eventually turned into a coaching gig in the Big Ten Conference, which is a very known conference. It is the home of Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, big name teams such as them. That is the Big Ten. However, he was not in coaching for very long because his father asked him to come back to the shipping company to help him. Okay, next, okay. His first experience at team ownership. Okay, his first experience was not a very good one. He bought the Cleveland Pipers. They were a basketball team that was located in Cleveland. They were part of the National Industrial Basketball League, but they later became a part of the ABL. He bought the team in 1960. They were in the NIBL for about a year of his ownership, and then after in 1961, that's when they became a part of the ABL. And in 1961, 1962, they were the champions of the ABL League. However, it was short-lived. The league was folded in December of 1962, shortly after the league began play. Unfortunately, due to this, Steinbrenner lost his entire life savings. Next. Second experience at team ownership. Yes, he had lost his entire life savings and was in huge debt. However, he worked hard, paid all of his debt off, and then became into enough money that he was able to join a group of investors that in 1973 bought the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees is what George Steinbrenner is most notably known for. Before Steinbrenner and his group of investors bought the Yankees, they were owned by CBS, and they had been fairly mediocre during this time. What George Steinbrenner wanted to do was to win championships and help get the Yankees back to what they were before their mediocre years. He owned the Yankees for 37 years, and during this tenure, the Yankees won 11 American League pennants and 7 World Series titles. Controversies. During his tenure as the owner of the Yankees, there were many different controversies. After about only a year or so of owning the Yankees, he was suspended from baseball. He was suspended for 2 years. However, it was shortened to 15 months later. The reason he was suspended was because he pled guilty to making illegal contributions to President Nixon's re-election campaign in 1974. Due to this, he had to pay a fine of $15,000, and his company, his shipping companies that he owned, also paid $20,000 on top of that. However, he was pardoned by President Ronald Reagan in 1989. It was one of President Reagan's final acts as president. Controversies continued. However, he would not stay. It would not be that much longer before he was suspended or banned from baseball again. He was banned from management in 1990. This one was a little bit different than the first one because he was banned just from management. He was still able to have ownership of the Yankees. He was just not able to be in day-to-day management. The reason for this was because he hired a person named Howard Spira to get information on Dave Winfield. Dave Winfield was one of his players for the Yankees, and he had signed a huge contract that was 10 years, worth $223 million. And however, Steinbrenner viewed it as he did not deliver on what his high expectations were, so he was trying to find a way to void his contract. The reason it was called a ban from management was because George Steinbrenner wanted it worded that way, wanted it worded to be an agreement because he was a part of the Olympic Committee and wanted to be on good graces with the committee. And so it became an agreement, and the baseball commissioner made the agreement permanent. However, it would not stay permanent. He was later reinstated in 1993. Negative impact. The first one was he was a no-nonsense, win-at-all-costs kind of guy, which this could be positive and negative. I'm viewing it as a negative in this particular situation because he went through many different changes in managers during his tenure as owner. In fact, in the first 23 years of his ownership, there were 20 different changes in manager. Some of those managers were fired and rehired again later. For example, there was one manager that was hired and fired 5 different times. Due to this inconsistency, they were not able to win a title during the 1980s, which during this time was the only decade the Yankees had not won a World Series title. He continued to participate in politics even after his suspension. He continued with George W. Bush, who was also a former baseball owner. Negative impact continued. Of course, like I mentioned, he was suspended by the MLB multiple times. One of those ways was because he was trying to void a player's contract. Dave Winfield, like I said, he even called Dave Winfield Mr. May, kind of like Reggie Jackson was Mr. October. Mr. Winfield did most of his damage or work during May instead of later in the season when the team was trying to win games to get into the playoffs and win pennants and World Series titles. Okay. He also would always talk about a Yankee tradition. However, he wanted to build a new stadium instead of renovate the old stadium that had over 80 years of Yankee tradition. So what he did was he wanted to his way, so he even threatened to build the stadium elsewhere, such as a different part of New York, as like in Manhattan or even New Jersey. A lot of fans did not like this, and so they wanted to do whatever they could do to keep the Yankees in the Bronx. He used public fund to build the stadium. He promised that he was going to use his own money. However, he did not. And on top of that, he got tax breaks close to $1.8 billion for construction on the new Stadium. Here's the new stadium right here. As you can see, it is right across the street from old Yankee Stadium. Free agency. There was also positives and negatives to free agency, but I'm going to start with the negatives. Free agency had pretty much just begun when he first came into the league, and he saw this as an opportunity to get the players that he wanted. This made it difficult for smaller market teams. They could not compete or pay the same that franchises that had more money were paying. This led to top heavy franchises in the MLB, such as the Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers, able to pay more money for a better team. This also, and George Steinbrenner wanted the best team money could buy. However, the best team money could buy did not necessarily translate to wins or titles. There was oftentimes conflicts with the chemistry of the team due to the many different superstars on the team. However, there were also some positives as well. He was a big part in helping athletes sign where they wanted for the prices that they wanted and thought they deserved. This changed the entire landscape of baseball. This was a negative, but it's also a positive. It helped baseball players be able to do what they really wanted to do and play where they wanted to play. But before this, there wasn't much movement at all. In fact, the only times athletes could actually move from team to team was if they were traded. He was a big part in helping set the free agency period. Like I said earlier, Steinbrenner signed what he thought would be the best team money could buy. However, we all know that that doesn't always turn into wins. Okay, positive impact. He also was one of the first ones to capitalize on the television market. He signed a 12-year deal worth $486 million with the Madison Square Garden Network. He signed this in 1988. Shortly after this contract was up, he launched his own network called the Yes Network in 2002. This helped him earn a lot of money, even off of the many Yankee fans who were not able to attend the Yankee games in person. This also led to many other networks as well that were focused on sports, such as the SEC Network, Longhorn Network, and other networks that focused on sports. He had a very lasting impact on the game. Anything from changing free agency to the television networks, he had a very positive and lasting impact on the game. Yes, there were some negatives, but because of George Steinbrenner, the game is what it is today. He was able to help help players create a free agency market, which really helped the growth of the league as a whole. And he was a great owner. Some say one of the best of all times. Some of his teams will go down as some of the best teams in history. He is and always will be a champion. Here's George Steinbrenner right here with one of his 7 World Series titles. Okay, here are my references. Here are my photo references. Thank you. I hope everybody's staying safe during this time. Thank you. Bye.